All right, so page 1. Part 1, chapter 1, page 1. Big 1 on it. All right, we paint a picture, a very dark, desolate, we used the word the other day, dystopian society, with regards to what Orwell is portraying here. Look at some of the things just in the first page. Okay? Setting the location. What time is it? What time is it? What's the clock showing? It's showing 13. Military time. It's 1 o'clock. Okay? So does that tell you something? People are referring to clocks and time in military time. Okay? We'll go into greater detail later, but they are always at war. So maybe that's just an easy way to do it. But these things tell you. Okay? He doesn't use the lift. They refer to a lift in England as an elevator. Besides, the power is usually out anyways during the day. You got to conserve the power. Okay, we have Hate Week coming up. He goes into detail in a little bit about what a 2-minute hate is. Imagine something called Hate Week. We saw the violence, the tenacity of these people. Even Winston, who upon beginning the 2-minute hate, he's just kind of laid back and blah, 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 but he gets into it and gets into it. Have you ever heard of mob mentality? Okay, people get kind of, it's a mob. Okay, they don't intend to necessarily get violent, but then, hey, riots break out. If you've seen any European football, soccer, by our definition, sometimes things break out and people have been killed where they rush the field right into a fence and they get pushed and pushed in. Those people didn't intend to incite violence. It just kind of builds and culminates. We see Winston, his description is 39, but based on his physical ailments, doesn't he appear much older? Okay, if you were to watch the movie, he's very frail looking, and you will see it throughout here. He doesn't eat much. He's saving a piece of bread in his refrigerator for breakfast tomorrow. He doesn't grab water. He grabs some clear gin. They call it victory gin. Have you noticed the term victory sprinkled out throughout here a couple times? Okay, that's the party. Okay, the party, the government, Big Brother is the embodiment of the party, and we'll go into greater detail later on. As he's climbing up the steps, going down the steps, every floor there is always a poster, and that poster is Big Brother, I'm watching you. And it's those eyes that, just like some freaky portrait, you walk into a museum with all these portraits of people, and as you walk by them, it's like the eyes just move. It's like the Haunted Mansion down in Disney World or something. The eyes just follow you. Now the body doesn't move, but the eyes do. And that's probably not a coincidence. I mean, it's intended. Just like the eye on the front of the book. It's intended. It will mean a lot more to us as we go further and further. His basic clothes that he wears. It's not, come to school, dress what you want. It's, I wear overalls. All party members wear blue overalls. So there isn't any flashiness. Ladies, there is no cosmetology. There's just overalls. Beautiful blue overalls. That would be horrendous, I think, over a long period of time. We discovered the thought police. And he goes into greater detail at the very end of the scene about thought crime. Okay, once you commit it, you're hosed. You're done. They might not get you today, they might not get you tomorrow, it might be down the road, but the moment you commit it, they're going to get you. Okay? In discussing the telescreen on the wall, okay, well, we would call that flat panel TVs now. They're one-way mirrored, okay, in essence, because there's a camera behind it and audio. It talks about how anything above a whisper can be picked up. Okay? You want to keep your facial features very neutral. You don't want to convey anything. In poker, that's keep a poker face. In essence, that's ultimately what he has to keep at all times. He goes into detail and say that at any time you can be watched. You must keep that mindset, or else things are going to happen to you and you will get vaporized, and so on. Look on page 3. In talking about the different ministries, you will find a lot of contradictions in this book They call them double speak. This, we have the ministry of plenty, which really deals with rationing out and having problems with coming up with the exact quantity of requirements. There's a shortage of, at some point, razor blades. We'll get into shortages of chocolate. There always seems to be rationing of something. Wouldn't you think the ministry of plenty, they'd be doing a little better job, or be dealing with surpluses and building up a stockpile, things like that. The ministry of truth is where Winston works. This is an important place, because as we'll find out, it's a complete contradiction from what they actually, from the title, it's a complete contradiction from what they actually do. Winston's job, as we will find out in greater detail later, it's going and fixing the past to mirror what Big Brother wants nowadays. Okay? So Big Brother's never wrong. If something happens in the world and it's reported on, Big Brother predicted that. Well, I'm not sure. If I went in yesterday's paper, I'm pretty sure he didn't predict. Well, you pull up that paper, it's fixed, because Winston's one of those people who went and fixed it. There is no proof that Big Brother is wrong or fallible. You got to get that notion in your mind. Big Brother is perfect. And that's what they portray to people. And if anybody becomes a radical and goes against him, that person, right? What term did I say yesterday? Vaporized. That's right. Okay, it's not disappear, sleep with the fishies, that type of thing nowadays, and mobsters and stuff. It's, you never existed. That's power. The ability to wipe somebody off the face of the earth, and they never even existed. We go into detail about London, which is the chief city of Airship One. That's what England is referred to, Airship One. And we belong to the superpower of the country, Oceania. So when you hear Oceania, that's England, London, and so on. We will go into greater detail as we go down the road what all constitutes Oceania, because there are three superpowers: Oceania, Eurasia, and East Asia. So Winston belongs to Oceania. So for the purpose of our reading this, we belong to Oceania because we're following the protagonist, Winston, along on his journey. The slogans on page 4, you'll want to commit these to memory. Not that they're very difficult. Okay? War is peace. Freedom is slavery. Ignorance is strength. Think about those statements. Well, it doesn't seem to make sense. They seem to be contradictory. They are contradictory, but they do make sense, especially in this particular setting. Okay? And we'll go into bigger and more elaborate discussions with that later. The other ministry sprinkled out on page 4, the ministry of peace. What's their job? They're in charge of war. Okay? We have the ministry of love, law, and order. What? Get in this mindset. This world doesn't function like our world does. You will find some similarities, though, and that's what's kind of freaky about it. And the ministry of plenty deals with the economic affairs and so on, and the shortages and things of that nature. But look at what the scariest one of all is. What does Winston say the scariest one of all is? The ministry of love. That's right. Doesn't that just seem to be, wait a minute, ministry of love? Look at the physical description of it. It's a really frightening one. There's no windows at all. It was a place impossible to enter except on official business, and then only by penetrating through a maze of barbed wire, entanglements, steel doors, and hidden machine gun nests. So if you were lucky to get through all of these other things, like if you wanted to break in, the machine guns are hidden and they'll take it. I mean, there's been some planning. Something's going on in the ministry of love. Okay? And so that's very important, and a lot of foreshadowing happening here. He has his victory gin, his victory cigarettes. He has an ulcer cantankerous thing on his leg. I mean, he's a very unhealthy individual, Winston, on page 5. Everything's victory this, victory that. It's part of the propaganda push of Big Brother. And everything's victory, everything's winning. You support us, things are good. And they keep pushing this stuff to them, pushing this stuff to them. And they use the 2-minute hate, as we'll see, to help perpetuate that notion and that thought. Okay? His journal. The bottom of page 6, something of very interest here. In his apartment, he is on telescreen completely, everywhere. Except he has a little cutout notch, maybe where, you know, a huge filing cabinet used to be surrounded by walls. And I mean, there's a little cubby hole that he is safe. That it's a blind spot. That's a good way of saying it. It's a blind spot. And upon sitting in that spot, he can do what he would like without fear of being spotted. Okay? And so he pulls out this journal. And follow along at the bottom there. He talks about that he had carried it guiltily home in a briefcase, even with nothing written in it. It was a compromising possession. The thing that he was about to do was to open a diary. This was not illegal. Nothing was illegal since there were no longer any laws. But if detected, it was reasonably certain that it would be punishable by death, or at least by 25 years in a forced labor camp. Wait a minute. It's not illegal, but if I'm caught, I'll be executed or sentenced to 25 years. Doesn't it sound like it's illegal? Think about this in real-world applications. If we existed in a world that had no laws, but people can still get picked up and executed, well, who decides that? Is that ultimate power to the police officer or the thought police? There are no laws, so no one can technically break them, but yet people can get picked up and snatched in the night. You think there are the Bill of Rights and everybody has their protections? The right to a fair trial by your peers and all of that? If people can get picked up and detained for, well, they're not breaking laws, but for whatever reason they want, it's kind of a scary situation. Okay? And so he opens it up. To mark the paper, right above where it says April 4th, to mark the paper was the decisive act. Opening it was in trouble, but putting the pen to the paper was the ultimate defiance. And remember, Winston has this rebellious nature, this rebellious streak. April 4th, 1984. That's all he wrote. He sat back. A sense of complete helplessness had descended on him. To begin with, he did not know with any certainty that this was 1984. It could be who knows what year. How does he know it's 1984? Because Big Brother says it's 1984. How do we know it's April 4th? Because he says it's April 4th. Remember, you can't go back to the newspapers. You can't go back in the past to find out, I got to check something to see. I think it's this day. You can't look back. Whatever you look back, that's what Big Brother wants you to find. Are you getting this notion in your mind? Whatever you find, it's because Big Brother has allowed you to find it. So that's why it says, well, it's April 4th. I don't even know if it's real April 4th. Well, Big Brother says it's April 4th. It's April 4th. Okay. And then he goes on to tell a story. Okay. He tells a story on page 8. And notice the rambling. It starts off, okay grammar, okay caps. Eventually, all punctuation is thrown out. All grammar rules, capitalization just thrown by the wayside. It's gone. Okay? And look at the story of the movie theater. He uses the term proles in here. Okay? You'll hear this a ton, so it's important you understand what this is. We use the term nowadays called proletariat. Have you heard that phrase before? That word? Proletariat is the lowest rung, lowest working class, lowest economic impoverished people. And so for short, they call them proles. Okay, so however you need to remember that or write that in your book, do so please. Proles. They show this movie full of party members. Everybody's having a good time. Notice that it was a helicopter is blasting at a boat. It's full of holes. They're laughing at this big man trying to swim as he's being pummeled with bullets. As they're shooting kids and shooting a woman. And he refers to her, oh, it might be a Jewess. Okay, which would be what faith? Jewish. Okay. Now remember, this was written in 1948, just after World War II, right? Remember the big problem? Okay, the big ordeal that they went through? So it might not be an accident that that was thrown in here, just, you know, as a descriptor and so on. There was a middle-aged woman that might have been Jewish, and there was a little boy screaming with fright and hiding his head between her breasts as if he was trying to burrow right into her. And the woman putting her arms around him and comforting him, although she was blue with fright, as if she thought her arms could stop the bullets, trying to protect him. So she's being drilled by bullets, and everybody's being blown apart. But then ultimately the helicopter planted a 20-kilo bomb in among them a terrific flash. The boat went all to matchwood, and then there was a wonderful shot of a child's arm going up, 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 right into the view of the camera. And then there was a lot of applause from the party. Could you imagine nowadays if that was shown? Would our reaction be like that? Seeing kids being shot and slaughtered and a bomb dropped in the middle of them, and they cheer at the cinematic beauty of that arm coming up and then falling back. It's important to understand that this world is not anything like our world, because we, for the most part I would think, would not be cheering. But yet the party members, the supporters of the government, are all cheering. The only person who complains is a prole, the proletariat woman. They shouldn't show this, they shouldn't show this among children, they shouldn't show this, we shouldn't do this is wrong, this is wrong. And everybody's like, ah, shut up. Get her out of here, this is ridiculous. So the only person complaining is a prole. Not even Winston. Winston's cheering and having a wonderful shot of the bomb falling in. He's just like the party members. Okay? He's just like them in the 2-minute hate that we see described in a little bit. How he gets, into it. Continuing, we don't see it written out in journal format, but he just, if you've heard of stream of consciousness before, you just put pencil to paper and you just start writing about whatever. You just go. Now it's probably just typing, and you don't worry about structure, you don't worry about flowing in 5-paragraph essays and things like that. You just go. So he has one, and he thinks back to the morning, and this is where the 2-minute hate is described. There's a woman, a dark-haired woman. Does he like her or hate her? Hates her. Why? Because she's what?
She's a pretty young woman.
Because she's a pretty young woman, and he knows he can't get with her. She wears a sash. Ladies know what a sash is. Gentlemen, do we know what a sash is? Okay, a kind of a ribbony scarf type thing. I'm envisioning it right around her waist. Okay, it talks about how it accentuates her hips and her curves. Okay, you see sashes and stuff, beauty pageants, that type of thing. So she wears a sash. She belongs to an organization called the Junior Sex League. Okay, which means that they don't have sex. Okay, they don't want to waste the time or effort because it detracts from Big Brother and from the party, and so they spend their time not doing that stuff, but helping the cause, and that upsets him. Okay, he sees her as a beautiful sexual being, but she's just throwing it out there, and he doesn't like that. Okay, and he later on, especially, he goes into graphic details in his dreams and in his thoughts about what he would like to do with her, and really very disturbing. Okay, and we'll see those down the road. So we see her. Okay, that's important. We see another person that he refers to as O'Brien. He's an upper level party member. What does he do? I'm not quite sure, but it's way up there. That's Winston saying that. Okay? There's something very interesting about O'Brien. At this time, Winston connects visually, and he goes into greater detail later. They share a glance. They don't talk. Okay? And Winston has these anti-Big Brother thoughts. He feels something in O'Brien that's similar. He doesn't know what it is. And they shared a glance. It was literally something like Winston's looking, he sees O'Brien, and then keeps going. But in that moment, they shared something. Okay? Winston perceives something. It's like, maybe you're not alone, Winston. I'm here with you. You know, whatever. Anything like that. Okay? But upon the 2 minutes hate starting up, all of them, the dark-haired girl, Winston, O'Brien, they all sit there and the propaganda begins. They are flashed pictures of the enemy. Pictures of Emmanuel Goldstein, who was in charge of the resistance, the underground movement that I alluded to yesterday. Okay? Anybody can figure out what nationality this individual is? Emmanuel Goldstein? A Jew. Okay? By accident? Orwell Pickett? Probably not. Okay? Probably not. You'll see what they've done to religion in a little while down the road. But anyway, so they flash pictures of Emmanuel Goldstein, pictures of the enemy, and they get people all riled up. People throw stuff at the telescreens. People, you know, they take a minute. It's like a 5-minute break each day, but it's 2 minutes. Everybody get your chairs around the telescreen. Okay, we're going to have our 2-minute hate. Okay, we all sit here, very good. Throw things, then it's done. All right, go back to work. You see this in movies and stuff when people get brainwashed, right? Aren't they subjected to all of these different images over and over and over again, and they're sleep deprived and all these things? Every day for 2 minutes, they are reminded who their enemy is. They are reminded that Big Brother loves them and supports them. Because upon finality of all of that stuff up there, there's Big Brother's face. Almost like a savior. Right? I love you. Big Brother. And people, and this is what kind of is spooky to me, they start kind of chanting. B, 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 B. Can you imagine everybody? Especially if they start rocking and moving around. Maybe like Avatar when they're trying to bring Jake back, you know, and Grace back, and everybody's sitting there, oh, you know, and they're just kind of rhythmically moving. It's kind of like, oh, okay. Temple of Doom, before they pull the heart out of the guy's chest, everybody's, they're all doing their thing, right? Those that have seen the movie know exactly what I'm talking about. Okay, one person going B, B, you're like, whoa, that's weird. A whole row doing it, a whole class doing it, and you're getting it. I mean, it's probably pretty powerful. And you can see how Winston can get swept up in that. Even though he has his reservations up here, it's almost intoxicating to pull them in. And it succeeds and pulls him in. We see the Brotherhood described at the bottom of 13 and 14. They discuss a mythical book. What's the title? There is no title. It's the book. It's really kind of like the Bible of the Brotherhood. Okay? We don't even know how many people are in the Brotherhood. No one knows. They don't know where Goldstein is. Rumor is he's around amongst us with resistance cells. Rumor is he's gone away. Who knows where he's at? There's just a lot of mysticism surrounding the Brotherhood. Can you see how that might be intoxicating for somebody like Winston who feels that he's a loner in his society to want to be a part of that? And you will see that as well as we go. The top of 15, second or third line. At those moments, Winston's secret loathing of Big Brother changed into adoration, and Big Brother seemed to tower over him, invincible. And so that's where, throughout all of this hate and everything, he is turned. Almost like a switch is flipped. Okay? There's probably still some sort of mind games going on that I know I shouldn't be doing this, but yet he can't control himself. And it's that ability to not control himself that may or may not get him into trouble as we get going. The chanting on 16, B, 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 and so on. 17, if you missed this or didn't get this far, shame on you, but definitely pick up and get through this section. 17, this is that moment that they shared that glance. Okay? And that glance of maybe their guard was down for a split second, or Winston's was, but he saw something, and that will come about as we get going. Page 18, he comes out of this. This was all a free writing. This was all just subconscious, just going. And he comes out of it and he looks down at his paper and he's written down the phrase, "Down with Big Brother, down with Big Brother, down with Big Brother," over and over and over again. He didn't sit down intending to write down Big Brother, but it came out. Uh-oh. I'm done. I've committed the worst crime possible, a thought crime. Okay? He could not help feeling a twinge of panic. It was absurd, since the writing of those particular words was not more dangerous than the initial act of opening it. The next page, whether he went on with the diary or whether he did not go on with it, it made no difference. The thought police would get him just the same. He had committed thought crime. Thought crime was not a thing that could be concealed forever. Sooner or later, they were bound to get you. And then look at this picture he portrays of it. They always come in the night. They always grab you and take you away out of your bed when you're not paying attention. It was at night, the sudden jerk, the light in their face as you're pulled out. People simply disappeared. You were ultimately abolished, annihilated, and here's our word. Did you circle it? Vaporized was the usual word. He continues on in his diary. They'll shoot me, I don't care. They'll shoot me in the back of the neck, I don't care. Down with Big Brother. They always shoot you in the back of the neck, I don't care. Down with Big Brother. And as he writes that at the door, his response, already? They got me already? He said sometimes, they might not get you now, they might get you down the road, who knows how long, maybe years down the road, but they're going to get you. He finishes the sentence. Oh, God, I am such a loser. I get picked up right away. And that's where the first chapter ends. Kind of a little cliffhanger. Okay? Now the second part, much shorter. We find out right from the beginning, it's not the thought police. It's his neighbor. Okay? A woman named, we'll call her, what's her name? Mrs. Parsons. Okay? Mrs. Parsons has a couple of kids. She needs help with some plumbing. And so Winston goes down to help, fix the sink, do little chores here and there that she needs help with. Her husband, we will meet him later. He'll just be referred to as Parsons. Down the road, he is a big-time supporter and organizer of festivities for the party. Yay, the party. Big time into it. The interesting thing to focus on in this particular section is the role of the children. Okay? Anybody remember what the name of their organization was?
Spies.
The Junior Spies. Very good. Okay. Just like we had the Junior Anti-Sex League, now we have Junior Spies. Their schooling and their upbringing is focused with the one principle of serving Big Brother and finding criminals, finding people in violation of the non-existent laws, finding people who are against Big Brother. Who are the children's main people that they're around all day? When you're kids, when you were younger, who's the main people you're around all day? Your parents. And so all of a sudden, all of the kids are being indoctrinated with this, we need you to spy on your parents for us. It's for the party, okay? Okay. It was great satisfaction and pride in order to do so. Listening at doors, late at night, trying to pick up mom and dad talking covertly about Big Brother in a negative way so that they could bust them. Okay, Parsons' kids, they're a little upset with Mommy. Mommy does not allow them to go out to an activity outdoors. Ma, I want to go. Why can't we go? What's the activity? A public execution. Does that paint a picture of this society for you? If that movie didn't do it, did this, and their kids, bratty kids, throwing a fit because they can't go watch somebody be hung and killed. Kind of freaky. That's the picture, guys. That's the paranoia. Parents live in fear of their kids. How crazy is that? They have to tiptoe on eggshells around the kids that they brought into this world. And those kids' main goal is to catch you. always on the lookout to catch you. Winston leaves. The kids accuse him of a thought crime. Oh, you're a thought criminal. Freeze! I got you. You know, like little kids with guns, you know, stuff like that. And he was worried for a moment, for a split moment. And then he goes back to his room. So the presence of these children, the presence of the Brotherhood, we see the paranoia that Big Brother and the party instills in the culture and the society. Okay? We see what happens. They come and grab you in the night and take you away. You disappear. You are vaporized. Very integral pages. If you didn't get through these, you've got to go back and get through these. Because his actions or his inaction at time, it's because of the stuff laid out in these pages. Okay?